Hello, hi, how you doing? Hope you're well. Welcome to another Patreon Q&A where I answer my patrons' questions in a video Q&A. You can either join the Patreon for $1 per month to ask a question. I do these every few months. Or you can ask a question in the comments down below and I'll do my best to answer it down there. Nicholas Wilson asks, how are you? And I'm good. As always, thank you for asking. Jam asks, hey, I have a few questions as I missed the last Q&A. Have you ever considered trying to get into the games industry yourself, get into Big Ant and work on the next AFL game maybe? Yeah, absolutely. The first degree I did, the first degree I tried to do at uni and dropped out of was a game design and development degree. I dropped out of it after 6 months, but I did eventually get a programming degree, so I kind of could shift into the games industry using that somehow. I consider like making indie games pretty often, like a lot, and I think I probably will commit to some sort of project sometime. You know, I've done online game jams a few times. And made some little games that way. And yeah, I think I'd love to try and work on a game in some way. And I would love to work on an AFL game, whether it's an indie game that I make or for Big Ant. That would be an amazing thing to do. If you could bring back one defunct series or game that never got a sequel, what would it be and what would the pitch for it be? I think the answer you'd expect me to say is Driver, because I want Driver to come back. So I'm going to say Kane and Lynch. I think a Kane and Lynch in the style and sort of setting of 2 almost, but maybe shift the gameplay in the vein of something like Hotline Miami or Sifu. Like, make it really intense, make it really hard, make it really twitchy, and use that intensity to sort of match the visual style that Kane and Lynch 2 had, and the sort of chaotic and intense, dialogue and soundtrack and energy. I think that could be an amazing way for the series to return, not that it really has much fanfare behind it. If you could do YouTube full-time, what do you think the channel would look like? Keep up the great work, love the channel. While I'm not technically full-time, I do probably have more time to work on YouTube than people think I do, because I don't release videos that often. I think I sort of hit a mental capacity on how many videos I can put out, and I want to try and expand that capacity and make more videos. So I imagine if I was full-time, it'd look somewhat similar as it is. I do have a lot of time to make these videos. I need to sort of work on, work on my habits with working and work on that mental capacity and try and make more videos. I think that limits me more than how much time I have. Ruth Knappman, hiya, thank you as always for such wonderful videos, and I hope you're doing all right as of late. I am, thank you. Was wondering, as the current state of the middle shelf game, of which you and your work very often pay tribute to and celebrate, finds itself in a murky point in its history, do you feel that bigger publishers may ever take a chance on niche oddities like these again, or does the day ultimately belong to the blockbusters, and there's little else from here on out? I'm not sure I would fully agree that the publishers aren't taking chance on smaller games at the moment. Like, maybe like 10 years ago that was the case, but I think the indie market has expanded, and the traditional publishers have explored making more middle market games. Like stuff like Ollie Ollie World or Hades or Sifu, or that cat game coming out for the PS5 soon, or Ghost Runner. They all sort of exist in that in-between space that I think is growing as a space, and it was all but dead a while ago. But what we don't see as often, I guess, is like the equivalent of handheld games. You kind of see a lot of mobile games, but it's kind of not the same as it used to be. And you don't sort of see trashy budget games that are sort of exist to cash in on a license, or they're a rip-off of Call of Duty or Medal of Honor or whatever. You don't see those as much as you used to, which I think you know, most of those were pretty terrible, so it's no great loss, but I really, really loved the good ones, and that's sort of part of what my channel is about. So I do miss those, but I don't think that the middle market doesn't exist. Sasson Zamarotti, do you have a backlog of games you want to play, not for the channel? If so, what does it look like? I don't like consciously have a written down backlog or anything, but I do tend to try and sort of eventually get around to all the big AAA games or the big hits that everyone sort of talks about online, just to keep on top of things, just to form my opinion, and just to sort of try and discover things to enjoy and love. It's a bit of a boring answer, but yeah, I play a lot of mainstream games that come out. Lazy Duchess, Sims 2 DS when? Sometime. Ritalin for Kids coming to baseball this weekend. This was 3 months ago, but chances are it was rained out, so probably not. Giant Purple Pen 15, I wonder what that means. What is your favorite Asian style of food? Chinese, Japanese, Korean, East Indian, Iranian, etc. Thai food. I love it. I love a good pad thai. I love a good green chicken curry. What's your favorite Western style of food? I like Italian food. I like pasta and pizza. I don't know, Western style. I will say that I think burgers in general, there's a bit of a burger craze at the moment. I think burgers are slightly overrated. I think they're annoying to eat, you know. I don't like using my hands to eat things. I eat pizza with a knife and fork, which I know some people think is criminal, but it's so much easier. Just get over it. Boggy Online, what's your favorite game based on a film or TV show? GoldenEye is a big one. I have a lot of fondness for GoldenEye just because I think it might have been the first game I ever played. I'm playing the Chronicles of Riddick at the moment, or I'm reviewing the Chronicles of Riddick soon, so look forward to that. But the Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay is just an unreal game. I really think it capitalizes on the license so well that it's probably the best product the best piece of media tied to that license, I think, is probably that game. I also really like Jet Li Rise to Honor from the things I've covered, though that's not actually based on a film or TV show. That's based on Jet Li. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a single favorite, but let's say GoldenEye or Riddick. Cannondorf. Hi, out of curiosity, ignoring any current projects you have going on at the moment, what is one topic for a video you'd love to make? Also, I was curious if you were still working on that video for Rogue Warrior. I hadn't heard about it in a while. I was wondering if it was dead or just not being worked on at the moment. It's not dead, it's just not being worked on at the moment. What happened was I was very sort of early in my stages of making that video, and then another big YouTuber released a video about it, and that kind of put me off, so I worked on other things because I don't want to release my video about something at the same time they do. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But yeah, I had a lot on my plate, so I just thought, you know what, I'll let this sort of sit by the wayside for a bit and get back to it sometime. As for a topic or a video I'd like to make, I've talked about it before, but I'd really love to talk about old arcade cabinets and sort of the history and story behind them. I'd love to talk to people who made the cabinets I'm talking about, but that's a really, really difficult thing to do, especially in Australia because we sort of didn't get all the arcade cabinets shipped here and it's sort of hard to find them. You have a lot more collectors in the USA. Yeah. Trixie Emerson, what's your death row last meal? I think a halal snack pack with a Coke vanilla. Look up a halal snack pack if you don't know what it is. It's delicious. Antonio Phillips, when playing a game that you think could be a video, at what moment normally does it change to I can make a video on this or I don't think I can make this? I know I personally have captured hundreds of gigabytes of footage for a project, get to the writing phase and then nothing. So wondered if you had the same in the past. Yeah, absolutely. I've done that a lot of times. It just comes down to like whether I have something interesting to say about whatever I'm talking about, or at least the topic itself is inherently interesting. A recent example, like I played a lot of Ghost in the Shell on PS1, and it's a fun, it's a pretty cool game. It's interesting, but I'm not sure I really have more than a few minutes to really say about it. There's not a lot to analyze other than this game looks good, feels good, is ahead of its time, but it's quite simple. And with the last Ghost in the Shell video I didn't perform super well. That sort of factors into my decision as well. So I think I'm not going to cover that game, but yeah, it's something that happens to me a lot, and really I'm quite meticulous with how I choose my topics. So you could almost say it happens to me every single time I go to make a video, because I try out a bunch of games and pick one that I find interesting, or pick a topic I find interesting. So yeah, that happens to me a lot. Dr. Daniel 316, of all your videos talking about weird ports or versions of games that differ from the main versions, example being handheld versions or something like Quantum of Solace on PS2, which would you say was your favorite, and is there any you talked about in your graphically impressive videos that you would wish to do a full video on? My favorite of those, I think, is probably Driver 3 on the GBA, which isn't a very fun game, and I didn't even finish it. But I'm just so impressed by it, and as a kid I was so impressed by it, and it sort of blew me away that it could possibly exist. So yeah, I'd say that's my favorite weird port. I suppose I'm also quite fond of Max Payne on the GBA. There's plenty of games in the graphically impressive series that I would love to talk about on the channel. Like The Wizard of Oz Beyond the Yellow Brick Road is one that I'm constantly thinking about covering, as is Cop the Recruit, and No Nashi No Game, or The Nameless Game, or whatever it's called. A patron, one of you guys, actually messaged me asking me to cover that recently, so I'm a little more motivated to do that. It's a really interesting game. They're all just really fascinating games, and part of the reason I liked doing graphically impressive series was more so I could talk about games that I found interesting, more than the fact that they were graphically impressive, which is probably a lot of the reason why I don't do graphically impressive games anymore, because I'm a lot more interested in, design and history and development of these games. Yeah. So Na asks, what do you think of Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube? I have a lot of really fond memories at like childhood parties and parties with friends playing Super Smash. I never owned it myself, and I was never drawn to it really as something that I wanted to play on my own, but I liked playing it at parties and stuff. So yeah, I never at any point got into Super Smash Bros. As much as the rest of the world did. But, it's a cool game. It's a good game. It's just not something I've been into. Sam Liss, has anyone done the Joe from Family Guy, "Hey Peter," to you? Yeah, all the time. Like back in high school when Family Guy was at its peak, got it a lot. Also, which of your thumbs is bigger? My right thumb. My right thumb, it's like considerably bigger. That's weird. Oh no, it's only a little bit bigger. All right. Anyway, thank you for the question. Robbie Grieg, hey Mini-Me, what's your favorite childhood video game memory? I have a lot of fantastic memories from when I was a kid. I remember like staying up all night in a tent in the backyard with all my friends, playing like Link Cable, Game Boy Advance, playing like Mario Super Circuit. I remember playing Time Crisis 2 just over and over and over again and perfecting it, and now I'm ridiculously good at Time Crisis 2. I remember on PS2, one of the first games we got, my brother and my dad came home with a copy of Half-Life 2, and then we started playing it on PS2, and my mum was like, "This is violent, this is horrible, kids shouldn't be playing this," and dad took the game back, which is, I don't know, it's just a funny memory I have. I can't think of like a specific favorite, but yeah, I have a lot of great memories. Robbie Grieg also asks, top 5 7th generation games. So I wrote a few down. I tried to think about this, and it's really, really hard to come up with like 5 that I won't change my mind on tomorrow. I avoided including PC-only games. I just stuck to consoles, and I came up with Skate 3 because I still play it really, really often, and it's super amazing and addictive, and it's incredible that I think no game since has really captured what it did. Call of Duty 4 was just a huge sort of milestone multiplayer game at the time. It was incredibly addictive, and incredibly memorable and incredibly stylish, and sort of, I'd say, ahead of its time, but it kind of like defined the time after itself. So it was a turning point. Max Payne 3, I think, is one of the best third-person shooters ever made. It's incredibly stylish, incredibly great soundtrack, and just fun to play. Not a great sequel, but everything else about it is fantastic. Far Cry 2, I have listed here, which I really, really love, especially playing it on permadeath. It's extremely intense and extremely immersive, and extremely stylish. And then the final one I have is Little Big Planet, which I spent a lot of time making levels for growing up. And I got involved in the online community for it, and just loved my time with it. I think it's a really sort of fantastic distilled way of making custom levels as a platformer. That sentence didn't make sense, but it's cute and it's surprisingly versatile. On the topic of generations, what is the most impactful generation of video games for you personally? The PS2 is probably that whole generation. You know, the PS2, the Xbox, the GameCube, and I guess the Dreamcast, though I didn't have a Dreamcast, so it wasn't impactful for me. But yeah, the PS2 and the GameCube were the two that I had, and during my formative years, I grew up with those consoles, and they meant a lot to me. And I still play a lot of PS2 games, and I'm still discovering things on its library that I'm falling in love with. And I just think it has an incredible variety of games that have a sort of freeness in their design that I think no console before or since has really captured in the same way. So yeah, the PS2 is just an amazing console to me, and that whole generation is really, thank you for the question, and that's the final question. So thank you everyone for the questions. I'll be posting a question I'll be doing another post on my Patreon asking for more questions tomorrow, so look forward to that. Otherwise, again, thank you for watching. Hope you've been well, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.